Okay.
Do you notice what happened differently this time?
You pushed go.
I started us off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
You did a great job touching the go button.
What'd you do this last weekend?
What did I do? Oh, I did a lot of stuff. We have friends in town from Germany. Remember them?
I do. The German chef that you're having a thing with, but talking about it in front of me and your husband.
That's not true. But we hung out with them. We went
Awesome.
Dinner at Demi.
Mm-hmm.
We did, which is a fancy restaurant in Minneapolis.
It's a very fancy restaurant. Tasting menu, exquisite. I think it's the best restaurant in the 5-state region. You're talking just food, service, the whole package, the package total. In terms of fine dining, it's the best restaurant in the 5-state area.
I mean, we had a lot of fun.
It's nice, though.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that the kids had a sitter.
I wouldn't dream of bringing them to that restaurant.
Well, maybe they were sitting there with you enjoying with non-alcoholic pairings with their 14 courses.
No, I mean, unless
you had to be impressed by the food.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. It was, I mean, we have not seen these friends for a couple of years, so it was like very fun catching up, and I could have eaten literally like a case of sliders from White Castle with them, and it would have been fun. But I was just very happy that we didn't have to do that.
Well, you could have done that another day.
Yes.
I like that too. One of the things that I'm looking forward to later on this week is I'm taking off to see my kid.
Yes.
And there is a White Castle opportunity, and he had never had one.
What?
He had never had one until Thanksgiving of last year, when I bought a box of them. And he's like, how many are in there? And I'm like, 24. And he's like, are you going to eat them all now? And I'm like, well, once you have one. He goes, I don't like hamburgers like that. I'm like, how do you know? And he's like, well, they're different. And I said, well, yeah, they're steamed, they're small, blah, 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 blah. Half a pack of ketchup on each one, alternate between plain and with cheese. And I taught him like how to do it.
Oh, I don't think I have the method.
I said, but usually you can just reheat them in the microwave. They come back great, all steamy and delicious. But it's a 2-biter. I mean, the White Castle is a teeny little burger, and we ate 24.
I'm sure you did. How did you feel the next day?
How did I feel later that night when we ate a real meal for dinner? Fantastic. The 12 White Castles this was after horseback riding. So, I mean, you're kind of hungry and all the rest of that. But my kid, who a lot of people, you folks, have seen pictures of him in my social, but he's been in some of my TV shows. He also is the star of the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives second Minneapolis episode.
Yeah.
So my son's done a lot of TV as a little kid, but people think of him as a cute little child. He's like 6'2.5", 200 pounds, no body fat. He's a monster. He's giant and wide.
I haven't seen him since like a long time.
I know.
I feel like I will be shocked.
You will be shocked. He's going to tower over you, and you're just going to be giggling. You're going to be doing that, and you're just going to think about Clark.
Yeah.
Your son being that big someday.
Yep. Oh, Clarky.
So, but anyway, I'm very excited because now I know I've got someone who will dip into the White Castle suitcase vibe with me.
It's not for everyone.
No, it's a very specific thing, but I grew up on them in a certain way in New York.
So this was not at all what I was going to ask you about, but I kind of feel like when you ask someone if they would like to partake in White Castle with you, you can kind of decide if they're cool or not.
Yes.
And also, it's a little bit of like sharing your shame, because don't you feel that way a little bit?
Yes.
Like,
it's a guilty pleasure.
Totally. But I don't believe in guilty pleasures.
Why?
I just believe in only pleasures.
No, because you're into the whole like 40 days of Molly thing. When is that over?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know exactly? You know exactly.
Well, I didn't know what the date was today.
For those that don't, you're still doing 40 days of Molly?
It's not 40 days of Molly, but it's 40 days of treats. And it's because I turned 40 on
Sounds
July
like
1st.
Sounds like 40 Days of Molly.
Yeah.
You're just calling it subtitling it 40 Days of Treats.
That's what I should have called it. Yeah, I'm just doing one nice thing for myself every day.
Yeah.
And I have one of those things.
Is that because you don't normally do that? Or because with little kids you found yourself as a mom skipping days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just am liking being a little intentional.
Who's the most selfish person you know that would never skip a day of doing something for themselves?
You, obviously. Why else would you ask that?
Well, obviously it's me, but yeah.
Oh, I was supposed to just think it and not say it.
No, that's fine. Okay. We both knew. It was
What?
kind of like the cherry pitter thing, which was not planned the other day, where it's like, we both know who I always do. It's a very important part of my self-care.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, self is in the word, or in the phrase self-care.
That's correct. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. So the other day I saw, because I follow you on Instagram, and I pay close attention to 40 Days of Molly, in the chances of catching something that I can give you shit about the next day when I see you.
Oh, okay. Well, what did I do?
Which is fun for your friends. But one of the things you did the other day that was great, that I do for myself all the time, is buy myself flowers.
Oh, yeah. That is a thing for me. I do it all the time.
Yeah. And it's fantastic. When I was living in New York and in apartments in my 20s, I'd go to the flower district and I would get, for like $5, a huge thing of fresh eucalyptus.
Oh, it lasts forever, too.
Mine lasts forever, but you kind of rub them, and that smell goes throughout the whole house. And then when they're dried and about to go away, if you've snipped fresh ends and said kind of so there's no rotting thing, you tie them up in a string, throw them in the shower with the hot water on them for like 20 minutes, and then you turn it down to something that you could stand under. But the smell of the eucalyptus is just, and you have like a spa experience.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Wow, I did not know that about you.
Yes.
I knew you were a flower person. I know you like fresh
I do
flowers.
like fresh flowers.
They make a big difference at your house.
They do.
Especially so what I like to do is get a big bouquet and then make a couple different smaller ones and you put them all over the place.
It's the best.
It is so good.
Outside my front door, I took a bed that was not responding the way I wanted to. And based on my trips to Morocco, one of the things I love about northeastern Africa in general, and other places in the Levant, is you go into souks, these marketplaces, outdoor bazaars, and there's a mint vendor, because they're big on mint tea. And they will have literally mountains of it on a table. And you can smell it from 2 blocks away.
Like, is it picked?
Yes.
So it's like on the stems or something still.
Yes.
Okay.
And they sell it dried and fresh. And so one of my apartments, I had a whole terrace where I planted mint. So you go out there and that's all you smell. Then at the end of the year, you dried it and you make mint tea and give it to friends. But I'm not that crafty, but occasionally I do something like that. So I've planted this whole thing of mint, and now it's mature enough so as you're walking up the steps to the house, you smell the mint, and it looks beautiful, and it's going to flower soon. You're going to get those purple flowers, but it's a perennial, so it'll just keep coming back.
Totally. And then it's smart because you have it contained, because otherwise it'll
go wild.
It gets crazy.
It gets crazy. What were you going to ask me?
Well, it's a whole separate thing. I was gonna ask you about tomatoes.
What about
that's its whole. I feel like that's a whole different episode. What you do with all the freaking tomatoes, because it's coming. They're coming for us.
I love talking about tomatoes. Should we just make it a whole other?
Yeah, I think so.
Episode.
Yeah.
Okay. To end this one? What's one secret that you're willing to share with me that I don't know about you right now?
Oh. Well, I'll tell you my favorite.
I got a big one for you.
Oh wait, do you want me to go first? Actually,
yes.
Okay, my favorite.
But you better bring it, because mine is going to be personal and revelatory.
Oh, mine is just kind of lame and pathetic. But my favorite thing to do for myself is get a car wash.
I love that.
But it has to be the inside of the car. The outside, I don't really care
the whole
about.
thing, so you go to one of those places where
they like vacuum and they do the whole thing.
Do you bring your kid with you?
Sometimes.
because Noah insisted when he was little, he loved it. I thought maybe Clark would like it.
No, they both. The thing is, Arlene loves to do the one where you drive through, but
Yes.
that's too scary for Clark. So I'm kind
Tell
of
him to suck it up. This is mommy's fun.
Yeah. No, but I like to do the one where they vacuum. So I don't want to be in the car when I go through. I want them to be vacuuming.
Do you tell him that mommy drinks because he cries?
Obviously. Wait, what's your secret?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know whether you've noticed, but my new thing are my compression socks.
People have noticed because what was that video that we posted? Was it you making the LeBron James nachos?
Yes.
And everyone's like, nice. Nice.
Grandpa socks?
Grandpa socks. I think they're cool.
Well, here's what happened.
Taking care of yourself is cool.
Well, here's what happened. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I fractured people know I fractured my ankle and broke my fibula.
I don't think everyone knows that.
Most people do. I had some Instagram.
Right.
I mean, I didn't want to dwell on it, where it's like
Yeah.
every week you're talking about your fucking ankle. It's like, okay, I talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're done. So I'm in recovery. Everything's going great. They didn't have to do surgery. Everything is fantastic. But it's a 6-month recovery with the PT and to get all the swelling because it was so traumatic. I mean, I really messed up my foot.
It wasn't cute.
No, it was not.
No.
And my doctor said to me, compression socks will help the swelling and the healing, stimulate blood and all the rest of that. He said, but while chances of having an embolism are extremely small for a man your age, once you have a major injury healing like that, there's all this swelling from almost the knee down to the toes was swollen because it was so traumatic an injury. As that happens, there's little bits of matter that typically get absorbed into your body, but if they get into a dissection in a vein or artery, could wind up causing an embolism. And so you're at a much higher risk of having one. Now,
you don't have to be on like blood thinners or anything, do you?
Not at all.
Oh, thank God.
But by the way, whatever it is, you know, it's 0.5% of a chance that I have it. But once you have an injury like this, it becomes 2%. Well, that's like 8 times as more, or whatever.
Yeah.
So they, 0.25% would be 8 times it too. So, but the point being, once that happens, and he's especially concerned with traveling and altitude changes.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of altitude changes and I travel a lot. And he's like, wear compression socks for the next 6 months. While this is all healing, do it. So it's so dorky because it's 100 degrees out. So I'm not wearing long pants so everyone can see my compression socks.
I don't know.
And my sneakers with a big Z on them.
I think it's an N, but...
Did I tell you my story about that?
No.
I'll tell you this really quickly. This is the greatest story ever, and we have 2 minutes left, so I will tell it. Bizarre Foods, Washington, D.C., the embassy special.
Yes.
We went to 5 embassies, and the big one for me was the French embassy. So if anyone remembers the history of our country, the French were our greatest ally, obviously, because we were trying to overthrow the British, and the French loved crapping on the British back in the 18th century. So, you know, Lafayette fought alongside us. The French gave us the Statue of Liberty. The Jefferson and Franklin spent years in Paris. A lot of remember their revolution was in 1789. So and ours was in 1776. So there were this idea of a democratic republic was the French influenced us and we influenced them. So very special part of our relationship with that incredible country. The French consulate if I had to pick one place to live in America that wasn't on an ocean, it might be the French consulate in Washington, D.C. It's a 200-year-old, whenever. I mean, we've had an ambassador from France here since, 1778 or something like that. I believe the house was built for them. I think it's in the Caileron. It's away from other embassy places, but it's got like the largest acreage in the city. It's stunned. The home is unbelievable. The grounds are unbelievable. Swimming pool. It's just
French people.
It is stunning. So obviously, inside is like a museum. I mean, there's famous pictures. I mean, some of the most famous art that we have from that time period of the late 18th century in post-revolution America, famous bust of Ben Franklin, a famous portrait of George Washington, don't hang in an American museum. They are hanging as gifts to the French, so it's in their embassy. It's insane, right? So in the show, they want me to meet the ambassador, and we're going to do it in his private office, which is huge. I mean, it's a massive room. It's the size of half of our whole office. I mean, it's just huge. And French doors and gardens, and it's just beautiful. And there's no cameras rolling. They're just stashing me there because the ambassador wants to meet me first and talk to me, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I'm dressed up. The ambassador walks in, and I look down, and I'm standing on this giant carpet. He has like a couch area, living room area, then he's got a desk. And by the way, all period antiques. I mean, it's the most stunning room. And it's this big yellow carpet with this giant Z on it. And he comes in and he says, oh, you know, nice to meet you. Cameras follow him in and we're rolling. And I looked at him and I thought I was so clever. And I said, thank you for having me, Mr. Ambassador. It's a thrill to be here. And personally and professionally, it's just a bucket list check off item. I'm just, we're so grateful to the French people and to you for making time for us. And, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And
I'm like starting to feel embarrassed for whatever happens next.
And he's like, thank you very much. And, you know, we trade a few French sentences because I speak a very little bit of French, but I wanted to throw that into the show. And then I said, well, I mean, I know we're going on a house tour. While I'm loath to leave a room that clearly is designed for me because of the giant Z that's on this carpet. It's this huge 250-year-old with this giant Z on it, and he just looks at me and he goes, you know, says something like, my dear man, you're a moron. And he turns to me and he says, it's an N. This was the carpet that was in Napoleon's office.
Whatever, you know, an N and a Z, they're the same letter, just one's taking a nap.
I do that kind of thing once a month, sadly. It's better than doing it once a week. So Andrew Zimmern, go fork yourself.